So here is my one sheet wonder. I wanted to create something that I could leave on coworkers' desks and give to my FedEx guy who's here like once a week, and my mailman, and, right? So I didn't want to do a dozen cards or more. I wanted to do little treats. So I'm using the Heartwarming Hugs, and I know this looks like a hot mess. And if you would like me to kind of format this and have it as a free downloadable, then please leave a comment below and I will figure something out, because right now I'm just using a DSP insert. I used my Simply Scored and I marked everything off, but let me tell you, using the Simply Scored when it doesn't start at the top is a little tricky. But I think I have it figured out. I know I've got a typo here because this ended up being 2 inches, not 2 1/4. So this will go straight across. But I want to share with you the projects that I was able to create with one 12 by 12 sheet, a couple extra pieces of cardstock, Mossy Meadow, Pear Pizzazz, Real Red, and then some Whisper White. And really, I didn't use a whole lot. I did create a box which needs 2 full-size sheets. It was 8 by 8. And then I used a Real Red matte, so 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and then these little strips, and you can see I didn't even use that one. You don't need a whole lot. So Heartwarming Hugs DSP, and then the Warm Hugs and Wrapped in Christmas stamp sets. And then I have a couple little dies that may be from something else. I know there's at least one tag that isn't from this, but we all have tags, right? So let me start with the Christmas cracker, because if you are new to Stampin' Up! Or paper crafting, you might not have this nifty little thing, and I'm never getting rid of mine. This is traditionally how you would make a Christmas cracker, but I'm going to show you a way that doesn't require that you have this. Stampin' Up! Used to carry it. Mine is actually We Are Memory Keepers, so you can still get it, and I would highly recommend having one of these. But I can't sell it to you. So let me show you a way that we can do this without the envelope punch board. And I will tell you, I tried Googling how to make it without the envelope punch board, and as soon as I put in envelope punch board, that's all I got. So to make sure that this video isn't going to be 3 hours long, I went ahead and I made all of my, like, I've stamped and die cut everything that I need. I've done my scoring. But like I said, you will have the dimensions. So this is the Christmas cracker. So this is 6 by 6, and I scored on, pick one side because they're both 6 by 6. So 1 3/8, 2 3/4, 4 1/8, and 5 1/2. And then when you turn it, you're going to do 1 inch, 1 1/2, and 2 inches on either end. And this is what gives us our Christmas cracker. Now it is a fairly small one. I went ahead and made it earlier. There's nothing in here and you can actually see right through it. So you could put a fair-sized object in there. You could put a couple of Lindor truffles, some Ferrero Rochers. This was just my template, or my sample rather. So if you don't have the envelope punch board, you can use the perennial flower. I thought I was being a genius. Let's use one of these punches because they both have great ends. But the problem is they start there, and that wasn't the look I was going for. So it's more like this. Now I'm going to I want to leave this in here so you can see it, but I also don't want to be working on it. And I want to show you that these are the scraps. That was all I had left on the outside of that. So you could keep that and use it as a tag for something else. But because I only use this DSP, it's everywhere and it just wouldn't stand out. So this is all you would have left. For me, I would just toss that because I have so many scraps. This one you could use for something for sure. But you can see I even got a tree out of this one. So let me take my Simply Scored and these little scraps out, and we'll keep this here so that I've got my dimensions. And I don't want this video to last forever, so that is why I did what I did ahead of time. Okay, so we are going to be punching at these intersecting points. And if you want your intersecting points to be at the same spot each time, I would highly suggest using your paper trimmer, a ruler and pen, something to mark how far you're going to go in. So at each fold, we are going to stick this in, and you can kind of eyeball it. The other thing you could do is take a marker. Let's try Shaded Spruce. And I'm just going to draw a little line on there. If it's not straight, it's okay. And these are water-based, so it should wipe off after the fact. Okay, so center it so that that score line is right in the middle and line it up there. So one at that end and one at the middle point here. And sorry, this paper is probably really hard to see what I'm doing, but just trust that I have it lined up that way and then lined up at my line that way. Okay, you want to do one on this end as well. You know what? Let's glue it and make sure that I'm not messing it up, because I've only made this once. So if you want that seam to be on the inside, just do it like that. So we'll add a little bit of glue. Whoa, not that much. And then press that down, and it's square. So this is the best way to ensure that it stays square. So it would be at this point that you want to put your truffles or whatever you're putting in here. And then what you're going to do is just kind of pinch it. And you see how it goes down? So we are going to use some of the sheer Rio red ribbon. Has anyone seen my scissors? If there's one thing that you always lose on your craft table, let me know in the comments what it is, because for me, scissors every single time. Now, when you're tying your bow, make sure that your seam is at the back, because once you tie this, oh, that's a little too short. Once you tie this, it is a little tricky to move it. Let's go. Now it's up to you whether you want to tie a bow or a knot. If it's in a bow, it will make getting into it a lot easier for the recipient. Okay, so just tighten it, but not too much. You don't want to rip your paper. It is DSP, so it's a little less forgiving than cardstock would be. And you could totally make these out of cardstock, but I'm doing a one sheet wonder with this DSP. And then all that's left is to put our little tag on there, and I've already done that. And since this isn't something we're going to be mailing, I want to add some dimension to this. So I'm going to glue this part down. And then these two layers will be popped up. Because why not? And then I like to put this one offset. You can put it either way, but I like it a little bit offset. So before you press down, just make sure it's going to be centered. And I just use the 1.5 inch circle punch. So there is our first project. Cute little Christmas cracker. And you can get 4 of these out of one 12 by 12. Okay, project number 2 is a triangle truffle. And if you can see this, it is another 6 by 6, and we are going to score it at 2 and 4 on both sides. I didn't score it through, I probably could have. And then the offcuts are going to be something else. It says pinwheel card here, but stay tuned for that. So I went ahead and I have already done the die cutting. So there is our 6 by 6, 2 by 2. And this, I have to say, I'm so thrilled with how this turned out. This is my original design. I haven't seen anything like this. I didn't case anyone. I looked up an origami box and found this, and I've been making them like gangbusters. So we're going to do something a little differently here. This one is what we're going to be making, and you can put kisses in here. You can put a truffle. This one actually has a Lindor ball in there. So we just need to do a little bit of scoring after we've done that cutting, and nothing too hard. So let's move these out of the way. So on each piece, we're going to line it up at 3 inches so that this might be easier to do before you cut it into your 2 by 4. At 3 inches, you want to add a little pencil line. And the way I did this, was we're going to slide the cutting piece down. I put the guide down and I just took my pencil and did a line and a line and then turned it and did the same thing. So at that line, keep that in your track. Let's move it down a little bit. That in the track, and we want this corner in the track. So we're going to take our scoring blade, for lack of a better word, and score it. And then we're going to turn, and I like to do all 4 sides and then turn it around and do the other one. So I'll speed through this. And you do want to be as precise as possible, because if you don't get it in the right spot, your box isn't going to fold properly. Okay, so when I was doing this initially, I would score and then I would move it 1/4 of an inch and cut it. But I found it was just a lot easier to just trim these off. And what we're going to do is we're going to miter them, because when we join these, we don't want a whole bunch of bulk in there. So you can use your scissors, you can use your trimmer, use whatever you'd like, but make sure that you take out some of that bulk at the top. Otherwise, you will have a box that doesn't fold so nice. And this is actually the first time I'm mitering it at this point. I usually miter it when I go to glue them together. So we'll see if I've mitered them enough. And this looks like a lot of work, but how sweet are they? Aren't they so cute? Okay, so now all we're going to do is fold and burnish all of those score lines. And here we can check to make sure our mitering worked, and it did. It is. So now all we're going to do is we're going to glue these 3 sides shut, and we're going to put a hole, tiny little hole in this one, and then we're going to run some ribbon through. And this one is actually what I cut from the last time, but I'm not sure that's going to be enough. We might be able to use this for something, but no biggie if we can't. So I find that using liquid glue is the best. Now, we probably should do our holes first. Now, if you have the little 1/8 circle punch, by all means use that. I have a tiny little circle punch, but it's not Stampin' Up because I wasn't smart enough to get it when it was still current. So you can even just use your, take your pick tool and the Stampin' Pierce mat and poke a hole. But let's glue these together. So we need, I put glue on that one, so I want to continue to glue this side. Might have taken a little bit of too much off that side. You want to go right up to the top. And it isn't necessary to put that ribbon in quite yet. You can, but it's not necessary because we're leaving that one side open. Otherwise, how would you get anything in there? And I'm sure that the recipient knew that they were never going to be able to close it again. They might never open it. Depends how desperate they are for candy. Okay, so we'll add a bit more glue there. And now this one looks a little bit different because it has directional paper going every which way. I thought it was really cute when it had the dots. A little bit of a piece sticking out there. So let that sit up for a couple of minutes to make sure that it's really good and stuck. And then I'm going to cut a longer piece. That's just not going to be enough. I want to be able to tie a bow so that the recipient can get in, take their candy, and then tie it back up. We're going to take it through this way, which is why I said that it wasn't necessary to put the ribbon in right away. And because this has a little bit of stitching on the end, it is easier to feed through. Not simple, but see, you can pull it through there. And now what I like to do is glue these 2 flaps down, but we don't want to cover our hole, so we're just going to glue it down here. We're just going to tie it closed. Not as bad as it looked, right? Kind of hard to tie in mid-air when there's nothing to weigh it down. Okay, and if you tie it upside down, you'll get a nicer bow, but for time's sake, that will do. And then we're just going to put a little tag on the front, because what would it be without a tag? So we'll put it on here. I like to use minis, and this is from the Warm Hugs bundle. I tried to use as much as possible from that bundle so that you wouldn't need to have a million different things to be able to recreate these projects. And if you do recreate these projects, I would love to see them. You can post them on my Facebook page. You can email them to me at stampedaf@gmail.com. Send them to me in Messenger. Love to see people's take. Okay, so we're going to put warm hugs to you all season long. Now, I do need to be cautious because one of these is going to be visible. So let's move this one a little bit higher and right against the inner edge. I realized I had to trim that down a little bit on my first one. Okay, so this is the side. If you're not sure, just give it a little pull. You'll see that it pulls away from the rest. There we go. So you can see a bit of those dimensionals. You can trim them down before you adhere them. Learn from my mistakes. Or just push them in with your take your pick tool. See, that one's going to come right off. So I am going to take a new one. Whoops. It doesn't want to let go. And I'm actually going to use a strip so that I can strategically put it where I want, where it is hidden. Or it's going to go right where it wants and still be visible. Has a mind of its own. Okay, and then you're not going to have that little extra piece, are you? Because you're a pro. Okay, and then one little mini on the candy cane, just to pop them up. And then right in the center there. And this is a little busy, like I said, but if you don't push down too hard, you have a little bit of room to be able to move it. Okay, so there we go. There's the one with our DSP. There's the one with there's my sample. So super cute, right? I'm going to bring in all the projects at the end so that you can see them all. They only get easier from here. Okay, so I mentioned that we had the 4 corners from the pinwheel, from the truffle triangle is what I'm calling it, because I love an alliteration. Stampin' Up! Alliterations are my thing. So what I chose to do was, because this ends up being 6 by 6, I thought, well, I don't want to do a card because then we have to do an envelope and I have to figure out how to teach you how to make an envelope without the envelope punch board. So I thought, okay, we're going to make a little box. So this is so easy. So easy. I refreshed myself with Stampin' Up! Website last night just to make sure that I had this right. Now, this box actually, it's the same height. And it was just too late and I was too tired to try and figure out how to get more of the pear pizzazz to show. So they're both 1 inch depth. This is a sheet of pear pizzazz and a sheet of mossy meadow. They're both 8 by 8. And you're scoring at 1 inch on all 4 sides. You're going to do your little tabs, and I can put the link to the Stampin' Up! Video below because they did it so perfectly I don't need to remake it. It ain't broke, so we don't need to fix it. So I'm going to grab the 1 inch circle punch. I believe this one's still current. Really wish they hadn't removed all the punches. We're going to put 2 thumb notches in, and this only goes up so far, so this is perfect. It's going to be the same height on both sides. May not be centered on both sides, but it'll be the same height. So just eyeball it and make your little thumb notch. And this will help because the box is the same size. The bottom is the same size as the top. It will help the recipient to be able to get them apart. Okay, so now what you need is a little bit of cardstock, and I chose to do both in Pear Pizzazz. So these are, let me double check, 4 1/4 by 4 1/4. So I'm going to take this out. We are going to stack these up offset. Hope that makes sense. Just going to use a bit of glue. And you do want them to be perfectly centered. Okay, so now with these 4 that were cut, I went and I took some of my 2-inch strips. So from here and from here, it could have actually gone like all the way across, since that was only 2, not 2 1/4. But these are all from this same sheet. We're not using any extra cardstock or DSP. So what we're going to do is I'm going to have the stripes going on these 4 corners. So I could do that now, but what I found was easier was, and I found a video that showed to just use a little bit of snail in the corner, or a little bit in the center, whatever you want, just a little bit. Don't overdo it with the adhesive, and you'll see why when I get to the end. Okay, so let's have that one going up and down, and we're just going to have a little margin on those 2 sides. This one, we're going the opposite way, because if we did all of it like this, it would be too busy. So let's do this little houndstooth pattern. Give it roughly the same border, which is like 1/8 of an inch, I want to say. Okay, and then this one I'm going to put sideways. Boy, it really listened when I said I just want a little bit, didn't it? Okay, so sideways, and that one's going to go on top. You're just building on top each time. And this is not a new design. I Googled this and found quite a few videos. Okay, so houndstooth. And if you keep in your mind that the stripes are going on the bottom piece, the houndstooth is going on the top piece, it makes it really easy to place these. Okay, so this one is going up and down in this corner. I'm going to turn that around because there's a whole bunch of Pear Pizzazz that makes the margin look bigger than it is. Okay, houndstooth. Now this is where that adhesive trick is going to come in. So we're just going to put a tiny little bit on this one, and we're going horizontal this time. Put in our margin. And then with this one, we're going on top, but we're going to go underneath this one. Nope, sorry, underneath that one. Okay, otherwise we've got a whole big piece and it doesn't look good. So this is why you're only using that little bit of adhesive, because you need to be able to get under there. And if I had started with liquid glue, that would be down for life. Now you can come in and put some liquid glue on those flaps to make sure that they're not going to lift. Totally optional. Isn't that fun? Okay, and then we can't leave that little circle in the middle. So what I chose to do was I have a stitched circle die, stitched circle in Mossy Meadow. This, I believe, is the 3rd. And then we've got that gorgeous die from the Warm Hug set. And then we've got another gorgeous die from the Warm Hug set. And I did stamp this image here in real red. You can barely see it. And then from the Wrapped in Christmas, I did May Your Days Be Merry and Bright, because I hadn't used that one yet and I thought it would be cute, and it brings all of it together. So before I adhere those, let's glue this on. And because it's an 8-inch box, It's 8-inch cardstock. It's a 6-inch box, which is perfect. I just realized these sides are popping up too, so let's put those down. Now that we can, so you could fit any number of things in here as long as it's just 1 inch in depth and 6 inches in width. I think that's where we started. Yep. So I am just going to put this under something heavy for a couple of seconds. Let it set, and we will put these together. So I'm kind of thinking this little piece of ribbon that we have that's just sitting here, let's put that in there and it'll add a little bit more to it. So we just need a couple of glue dots. And I want to apologize for this video being so long, but if you see how many great projects you're getting by the end of this, I hope you think that it will have been worth it. A lot of thought and time went into these gifts, and they're all little easy, cheap gifts, right? So for teachers and all of the people in your life that you want to give gifts to, but you can't break the bank. Maybe you want to, but you can't. And with COVID-19, this is definitely the year that you want to make sure that you're giving gifts to those essential workers like teachers and grocery store clerks and all of the so important frontline workers, right? I mean, we don't want to spread COVID, but do it safely. Oh, I think that's going to be so much cuter. So again, this is something that we're not mailing, so let's pop it up. This one doesn't really matter which way it goes. And one more. And you could punch a foam circle so that the whole thing is covered. I am finding, however, that when I try punching with the foam adhesive sheets, I'm worried that it's going to harm my punch because it can be tricky to fit it in there. So use it with caution. Okay, and this is another one I like to offset. I don't know, it is offset on here. So I think maybe both of these are offset. Maybe that's why I like to do it. That one is straight on. And to be honest, there are sentiments in that stamp set that I hadn't used until I started putting this together. And I think a lot of the fun comes in using one whole suite of products to design a class, because I mean, you're limited in a way, but you're kind of forced to use everything in that bundle. Okay, so for this, I am going to use Stampin' Seal, and I'm just going to put it on that bottom square. It's probably overkill, but we don't want our box top coming apart, and you can choose which way you want it to go. I'm kind of liking it that way. And if you'd like to make a 6x6 card in envelope, have at her, but I just thought this was a nice way to go that little bit further. Okay, so I'm going to glue this one because there's far too many layers on it for me to be able to use Stampin' Seal now. Okay, let's keep it like that. And how stinking cute. And if your gift is something that requires tissue paper, you could even stamp some of the cute little sentiments or images on your tissue paper. And then you've got a gorgeous little gift box. Okay, so that's number 3. I kind of went above and beyond those 4 squares, but I think it was worth it. You let me know what you think. Okay, so now we're going to go around this way. We're going to do a gift card holder, and I've got most of that done already, and I have done this gift card before. So I'm just going to glue these down. This is a standard top folding A2 size card. So it is 4.5 by 11 scored at, 4.25 by 11 scored at 5.5. I still don't know if I said that right. And you're just taking off, how much is it? taking off a 1/2 inch off that front panel. You don't have to, but I find that it makes it a better fold. Okay, so we are going to attach this as well. And it doesn't matter if the pattern continues or not, because this is going to be the inside. So put that on there, and then I've got a card mat for the insert, and I just stamped that a little something for you. I didn't quite offset it as much as they did on the design, but the one thing you want to be careful with here is that you don't stamp too far over. So the measurements for this, now that we've got the card and the mat, so this front piece is 2 3/4. All of these are 4 inches high. So 2 3/4, 1 3/4, and 1 inch. So let's stamp this up, seal it up. So we're just going to put that on that mat. It helps bring the outside in, even though we're already bringing the outside in. We can adhere this, and if you want a different sentiment on there, by all means. I also thought it would be cute to have the sentiment, "This one's on me," but I had already used the circle images, so this is the "This one's on me," but I thought, okay, well, I've already used "Warm Hugs to You" all season long. I haven't used this sentiment yet. I hadn't even inked it up yet. So let the joy of the season fill your heart. And I did bring in the bow from the gift wrapped bundle, which is another sleeper in the catalog. I think it's so beautiful. I think I'm going to do, I'm starting a new series on my YouTube channel that will be shared to Facebook Live, fingers crossed, called Uninked AF. And we are going to just put in a little thumb notch. So just eyeball that, punch it out, and we can use Stampin' Seal Plus, we can use tear and tape, we can use glue. I like tear and tape because it's immediate. And it's kind of meant for 3D projects, right? Now, I've still never mastered how to use tear and tape without getting a tiny bit of cardstock on there. So if you have any tips, let me know. Give it a little burnish. You're only putting it on those 2 ends, otherwise your gift card will not go in. Push that down. And I always keep an empty Amazon card here. Okay, so now we're going to put this on, and this is from the Tasteful Touches bundle. Usually what I would do is use a scalloped oval or a circle, and so I'd use the layering circles or the stitched shapes, and I would do a mat. But this time I'm just going to do this, and we're only putting adhesive on this one side, because if we put it on the other side, we are going to seal our gift card holder closed. So just put it on half, center it, top to bottom, left to right, and then we're going to put that on there. Now, I want this to be mailable, so I'm not going to put dimensional on there. I also don't want it to be higher than that, so we might have to put it a little bit further over than... See, and I should have stamped it a little bit lower, so you know what? Let's put it on that side because it's not getting in the way. We don't have a lot of room to adhere it, but make sure that if you use a long sentiment like this, that you leave yourself some room for the bow. Oh, too high, too high, too high. This is going to be a hand delivery. Okay, so there we go. Isn't that cute? An easy gift card, and you've still got room to write to your recipient. Okay, so that was number 4. So next we'll do the Kisses tube. This takes no time at all, so I went ahead. I've already die cut and done my cutting. So this is 3 3/4 by 4 1/2, and we're scoring it at 1, 2, 3, and 4. If you start at the half end, you're doing half, and then 1 1/2, 2 1/2, 3 1/2. We need a piece of tear and tape, and I always like that little flap on the outside. So we need a piece of tear and tape that goes on this panel, so the second one in. a ton of kisses. So this will fit 4. So again, you want to burnish your tear and tape down and then pull it. And then starting at one end, keep it within your score lines, which I know is hard to see. I wasn't really thinking when I chose this paper, but also I only have 2 sheets of this whole suite left. So we could have gone just a little bit further, but that's okay. So I have this and one other sheet of 12 by 12. I have loved the heck out of this paper. Okay, so just pull that down. You're not gluing it. I've made a little belly band, and that is just 1 inch by 3.5. Yep, 3.5. And I don't actually score my belly band. I wrap it around and then just give it a little fold. So we're going to use a little bit of glue here. Don't make it so tight that the recipient can't slide that on and off. So when you feel like it's just right, pull it back just like a millimeter. Okay, and then it should slide. And then when I've made a video of these. I have used the mini curvy keepsake dies to do this little tag, and then I add a candy cane and I use the itty bitty Christmas. But I thought, okay, well, let's keep it so that it's just this bundle. So I made, actually that tree is for something else. I just did the little candy cane because we don't have many sentiments that will work on such a tiny little thing. These circles definitely won't. So you could do a happy Christmas where you're masking it, but I think I'm just going to put these on. Although it looks kind of funny, doesn't it? So with this one, I would suggest using one of these tiny little tags. So let's do that super quick. So if you're not sure which dies I'm talking about, it's these ones here. And there's a few different shapes. Take just a little scrap of this, and you could just do your little candy cane right on the tag. See, everything else is just too big. All the sentiments are too big. Okay, and then with that little itty bitty Christmas, we are going to use the Oh What Yum. It just fits so perfectly and it's so cute. How can we not? So as much as I tried to keep it to the one bundle, there was just times where we couldn't. So the one thing I didn't mention is the only 3 ink colors you need are Real Red, Pear Pizzazz, and Mossy Meadow. So the ones that match the DSP and the cardstock that we've used. We've got our Oh What Yum. My chamois put away, so I'll just leave that out for now. And I'm using the Real Red braided trim there, and I just happen to have a piece sitting here that was waiting for the right job. This is way longer than it needs to be. Just thread it through. And then trim your ends as long or as short as you want them to be, with whatever ribbon you want them to be. Put one little dimensional on the back. Pop it on your belly band. Make sure that it's not on the seam. And you could just leave it like that, but since we have the candy canes already ready, we will use a mini and pop them up. And I like to keep it on the tag, which can be tricky to do because there's not a whole lot of room. Okay, so that's number 5. We're almost there. Almost there, I promise. So the one last project that we have is a cute little Ghirardelli square. And it, like I said, this was a typo. It should have been 2 inches. So this is 2 by 1 3/4, and this is 2 by 2. And then we have a piece of Real Red cardstock, and I've already done everything for this. We just have to assemble. A piece of Real Red cardstock that is 2 1/4 by, I want to say 8. Is it 8 inches? Yes. and then I'm gonna have to get my trimmer out. I can't figure out where so it is 2 1/4 by, sorry, it should be 8. This one was just a little bit shy. So you need your square to be able to fit in there. So you are scoring at 5 3/4 and 2 1/4. As long as your square fits in there, you're good. And I cannot tell you how many of these I've made. I mean, it's not, it's not like a mind-blowing amount, but more than I'm used to. So I had a little piece of Whisper White that I just cut to fit in there, and this is 2 by 2 as well. So let's just use some Stampin' Seal. I don't want to get my sentiment in ink. And that is going on the top inside panel. So if you do this at 8 1/2, then this will need to be 2 by 2 1/4. So the Ghirardelli square fits in there nicely. I know the color doesn't really go with what we've got, but it was what I had. All of the other ones that I have used have been used. I need to go and get more. It's making team gifts and customer gifts, and everyone needs chocolate, right? So just a little bit of tear and tape. The inside is done, except that I decided, remember there was one little scrap in there that had a tree cut out of it. I decided I wanted to use that on the inside. And there's a reason. It's because I had stamped the sentiment on this piece of Whisper White that I was die cutting, and then I thought, oh, I should use that for the inside there. And it wasn't centered, and I didn't want to re-stamp it because I was already repurposing it anyway. So I thought, oh, a tree will be good. And then you could write to or dear so-and-so from so-and-so. Okay, and then now it's kind of awkward because I put the chocolate in there, but now we're just going to add our DSP so we can use some more seal. I feel like this was more of an online class than it was just like a blog hop video hop. So if you've made it this far, thank you so much. And I hope that you have gotten some inspiration somewhere along the way. This one is 2 by 2, so it doesn't really matter which way it goes, but I want to keep my stripes going the same way because I think it breaks it up a little bit too much like that. So I want mine going that way. So back to what I was saying. I hope that you got some inspiration here. And if you do make any of these, I would love to see them. If you haven't already subscribed, please consider hitting that subscribe button below. I promise my videos are not this long. It's because we have so many amazing projects in here. Tooting my own horn. Okay, so that is the front. And then all we need, this was actually an offcut from this on the inside. So I thought maybe we could pop the heart in there. So to do your closure, I've made these a couple years in a row now. I think the original design was Dawn Griffith, but I could be wrong. So actually what I usually do is I put the dimensional on there first so that I know where I have to work with. So just butt that dimensional up. Don't stick it on there. You know what? I'm going to show you the way I usually do it because that's not it. So I put the flat end right there. I'm going to peel this one off. Sacrifice a dimensional to show you the right way to do it. Now that I've beaten my circle up. Okay, and pop that on. Oh, that's not going to work anymore. Okay, scrap that. We're going to use this little heart. Oh, I know why it didn't stick, because I hadn't peeled that off. Okay, so now we're going to pop our circle on there. Our poor little beaten up circle. And then I'm going to put a dimensional on here as well, just to give it a little bit of extra dimension. I'm not going to mail this one, although there are some that I will mail. And then there we go. Now, usually I would put a little sentiment on there. Maybe we still could, but I feel like I've kept you so long already. We could put, we can't put the So Very Merry because it's on the inside, but you could put Eat, Drink, and Be Cozy. You could put Happy Christmas. You could put whatever you want. And then you're just, it's like a matchbook. So you're going to do that. You could put a little something for you. You could put whatever you want. So let me bring all that in, and you saw all the scraps at the beginning, which not many, right? So let me bring them all in and I'll show you where they go on the one-page wonder, one sheet wonder. Okay, so that goes there. This goes here. This goes here. This goes here. This actually, let's bring the box in and we'll kind of put both there because it took up more than that. And then there's our Christmas cracker. So please leave me a comment below. Let me know if you enjoyed this video. It was a lot of work, a lot of design, a lot of measuring, a lot of love. So I thank you so much for watching, and we will see you soon, my crafty friends. Bye.